Hello, welcome to Manifesto-ish's panel discussion of our current artist in residence project, the Beautify Me project, artist in question being Veronica Cianfrano. It's been a little while since we had one of these guys, so we're off to a little bit of a late start, but thank you for tuning in if you're tuning in live, and thank you for tuning in after the fact if you're watching this video after it's been recorded. So I'm just going to start by introducing everyone, reading a short bio for all of our panel members, and then we'll kind of launch into the discussion. So we'll start with our artist in residence, Veronica Cianfrano. I'm going to be reading it off the screen, so my eyes will be diverted. Veronica is a multimedia artist who has been examining the communication breakdown through photographic images and memories of her familial ties and through our current reliance on digital communication. Her work serves as a display for these vignettes of examination, whether it be through memory decay, new meanings found in old footage, or the effects of the new media on our news media on our state of mind. Since receiving her MFA from the University of the Arts in 2010, Veronica Cianfrano has served as both co-founder and curator for Manifesto-ish and Champions of Empty Rooms. She has also served as a mentor and teacher for pre-college and college level art students as well as professional artists. So that is Veronica. Moving on, we got Lauren McCarty, who is a multimedia artist from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, now based in Jersey City. She works as a teaching artist, organizes arts events, occasionally writes and curates exhibitions. She studied at the California College of the Arts and received degrees from the Rhode Island School of Design and the University of the Arts. Her work has been exhibited on the East and West Coast of the USA and abroad in the United Arab Emirates and People's Republic of China. Next, we have Heather Squire. Heather is a second-year PhD student in Geography and Urban Studies at Temple University. Before making the jump into academia, she held numerous service industry jobs, was a union organizer, helped coordinate the offsite location at Occupy Wall Street, and participated in numerous struggles for social justice. She loves spicy food, tattoos, and opossums. And then we got Jesse Ann Clark. That's me. I am your moderator for this evening. I'm the proud co-founder of Manifesto-ish. When not hosting panel discussions, I've been known to wield a paintbrush or two. I've been the portrayer of the emotive and absurd for over a decade. My paintings and drawings are dark comedies composed of semi-representational imagery sprawled over any and all available surfaces. It's weird to read your own bio out loud. So I was like, maybe I shouldn't. But
hear someone else read my bio out loud. I'm like, oh god, I gotta really.
I'm sorry. Since you were the first one, it was not stumbled a little bit there. So we're gonna start by having Veronica kind of just describe the project a little bit if you haven't had a chance to take a look at it. It's still up on our website. You can look at it under the Artist in Residence tab at manifestoish.com. And then we'll kind of move on to kind of talking about the topics addressed by the project. So if you want to take it away, Veronica.
All right.
Yeah.
I made you a project. So I got this idea for this project back when I was still single and I was on OkCupid. And I thought how shallow that communication is and how strange it is to try to develop any kind of intimacy through this world. And then I found this app. The app. Let's call it Beautify Me. And this app is designed to, you take a picture of yourself and then you get to enlarge your eyes and make your lips really big and your nose really tiny. And then there's even a skin perfection setting that basically takes any color completely out of your face, so you look like a white alien with a big lollipop head. And I was like, wow, is this what's beautiful? Is this what's happening now? And I had a lot of fun playing around with all these spaces. And I thought, number one, this is fun for me as a 32-year-old woman who actually knows what human faces are supposed to look like. Number two, this is terrifying for young girls who may actually take this seriously. And then so I was like, okay, are people actually using this? And I started going through Instagram. There are all these beauty accounts on Instagram, and yeah, people are actually making their eyeballs ginormous and adding sparkles to their eyeballs, and so rather than I'm not really passing judgment on people who use these apps. People should do whatever they want. But I think it's interesting. So I conducted a study. I picked the portraits of myself that I changed as much as possible about what I actually look like. I picked the ones that look as different from me as possible. And I let the internet decide what my identity was based on just that picture. And then I took their feedback and I made a profile on OkCupid, and I drew the results. Whoever messaged me, the first person to message me, got his profile picture drawn, and the message is underneath it. And I'll share those pictures with you guys. I guess maybe we'll do it later. Do you want to see it now?
What was that, Laura?
Show us the artwork.
Okay. Oh, can I?
Yeah, as long as you can do, I think you should be able to do a screen share. You see the tab on the side?
There we go. Got it.
Yeah. You just need to be talking while you show your screen, or else you're what? Okay. All right, you be the talker now. You just need to be talking while you show your screen, or else you're what? Oh no.
Okay.
Make it stop. That's my voice.
All right. So, here's one.
Oh wow.
That one's pretty good, right, guys? There's another one. This one, I don't know if you can see, but it even made my teeth longer, and I have 2 sets of lips. So that's what
I thought those were gums.
This one. Another one. So these are just the raw pictures. This one ended up being my favorite. I'll let this one sink in for a minute. So in this one, every single thing is fake. Like the hair is not my hair. I don't know what this. I think this was supposed to be a brooch. Put it on my head. Is this one? This is emo girl.
Yeah, that does not look anything like you.
Devil eyes. Yeah, it makes your eyes enormous. And one really black nostril. Crazy eyes. This is a little video I made. So this one was my favorite one. So I started by doing digital painting of it. So this is the in progress digital painting. I just really liked the in progress version of it. pretty apropos, I think. And this is the final digital painting I made of that. Then, so this is my first suitor. His name was Yo Man 6922. And that was his profile picture. And this was his first message to me. Oh, let me tell you about my person before, because you don't understand how ridiculous this is until you know what my person is. So it ended up being that I was a 18, so this was the identity that people decided that this girl should be. She's 18 years old. She's from Orlando, Florida. She likes to read Daniel Steele novels. She is very religious, and she wants to have lots of kids someday. What else? I think that's pretty much the gist. I have the screenshot of the profile on the Manifesto-ish Facebook page, I think. Let's see. Oh yeah, my screen name was Bible Babe 69. Yeah, this is like this was the sketch that I did. Yeah, so I don't do any drugs. That's my profile picture. That one had a nice blur on it. So yeah, that's the idea there. So yeah, here's my suitor. This was his first message to me. Hey, how's it going? I'm blank. I'm 23 from Ireland, but living and working in Orlando, Florida for the summer. I'm a nice guy who's good, fun, friendly, outgoing, and a good listener. Tell me about yourself. You're gorgeous. No, hey, I'll take any compliment. But so this was my first, and it's pretty nice. Nice guy. Didn't say, you know, you seemed pretty reasonable. Then my favorite one. Oh, there's my watercolors. And this guy. So great. So I'm gonna remind you. I put that I'm 18 years old. This man is 43 years old, and his name is Too Big for You 99. And this was his profile picture. And then he put, "How about post a real picture of yourself?" Question mark. How about post a real picture of yourself? And so these are 11 by 14 drawings that I did of them. And I got a couple other responses. Most of them were trying to figure out how Christian I really am. AKA, do I believe in marital sex? Oh God. But yeah, so that's the general idea. Now you're gonna see the infinite Google Hangouts again until I can figure out how to
stop sharing your screen.
Okay. You did it.
That last guy was what, like 43-year-old man who was an 89% match or something for your like 18-year-old. Like, all right, I don't know what that algorithm's really doing, but
good question.
So that's basically and your last step was your drawings could be purchased, right, in a gift card format. That was, yeah. I think, part of the original plan, but I don't know if that came to pass, right?
It's a thing.
It's a thing.
It's through the Manifesto-ish site. I don't want to do screen share again because it's hard.
No. It's on the artists in residence tab, right?
Yeah.
Or is on the front, you know. So
So
that's the last step, was that people could purchase
really
those
amazing picture either of a
of
43-year-old man in his car or of a 24-ish-year-old man in the mirror
24-ish.
or of my crazy distorted face. I know everyone wants one of those things.
So those are the
But yeah.
basic steps, right? So you have people, you create an image, a distorted image. People determine your identity, you post it, and see what sort of reactions you get, and then create another sort of image out of those reactions. So that's kind of, those are the stages.
Yeah. And I posted those same pictures on Instagram with the Beautify Me project as the name of the Instagram account. And the people who engaged with me through that platform were all young girls. And they were all
on Instagram. Oh, so they were like, "Ooh, like you look so beautiful," like that kind of thing, like great pic,
I love your mascara. Where'd you get that? Or
the internet, it's digital. It's not real. You can get it too with this really clever app.
It's free. All the makeup you see was free. All the plastic surgery was free.
So you had a number of kind of questions that the project was kind of seeking to answer. I figured that could kind of like start. So we all kind of know that what the project was geared towards. So we're kind of here to talk about the ideas addressed by the project, about the project itself, but also the ideas kind of brought up by the project. So we can maybe start with the second question on my little question list, since we were just talking about the app. So the project is asking, you're asking through the project, what do these beautifying apps really do to our identities when we use them? So that could be, I mean, I don't know that I definitely have not used, I didn't even know that was a thing that existed until you were showing me that app. And I was like, that's kind of crazy. And so, I mean, we could say like the apps also just, people can Photoshop their images to change, there's filters, there's all kinds of things geared towards changing images of yourself that you can then post to these social media platforms. So the question is kind of what are these things doing in regards to our identity?
Should I tell you
Anyone?
what I think?
I mean, I was thinking about earlier just the idea of like when we were younger, definitely like photo retouching was in use with magazines. Like I think when we were younger, when digital, social media and digital technology was only just kind of starting to be created, we're still kind of being met with images that had been tampered with, so you're dealing with, when you see magazines putting forward images of women, I would say specifically, those things had been retouched. They're not really showing us what people really look like. So in this way, like these apps kind of create a way for us to do that to ourselves. Does that make sense? Like it kind of spirals out from that kind of practice. So it's not only is it in the media, like magazines and like newspapers, whatever, ads, we're kind of carrying out those activities on our own, or some people are. I won't say everyone is doing it. So
Yeah, it's a continuation of that same principle, the beauty standard. The problem with both of those is that they're actually unachievable. Nobody ever looks like that. People get pimples, people get wrinkles. Just it happens. Cellulite is real. It's a real thing. Pretty much everybody has it. So these unachievable beauty standards can be really dangerous. And then I don't know why it has to be so crazy distorted though from what real faces look like. That's the fascinating thing about these apps to me, is that who's believing that your eyes look like that?
What I was thinking when I saw that was, I thought they're so exaggerated, but as I've gotten older, I feel like I noticed like celebrity women, especially, who are getting plastic surgery, and it like almost always seems really extreme, and I stare at their faces for a while because like their cheekbones have suddenly moved into like a place that cheekbones don't normally exist, and like the skin up here has been sliced open, and then their hair is like typically, like I just recently saw a picture of Pamela Anderson. I don't know how old she is, but like I'm sure that picture was probably retouched, but the shape of her face, it was so different, and it reminded me of one of those Beautify Me apps, because all those features were very exaggerated, and I couldn't say that they were beautiful, but they signified like sort of like, I don't know, elite white women beauty in a way. So even though they aren't necessarily beautiful, they point towards that.
Yeah. Yeah, it is specific. There's also a huge fad in the Asian population to make your eyes wider, and they actually surgery to decrease their top eyelid. And I think the app that I actually got was a Japanese app. And so what it did to my eyes was like, crazy eyes. But it definitely accentuated eye largeness. I think maybe because of that, because that's a beauty standard, a specific beauty standard for that side of the world. I think loves big giant eyeballs, right?
I think that in the context of social media, identity, the word identity could easily be swapped for brand. And via the different social media platforms that each of us is a part of or not, we kind of create our own brand and then perpetuate that brand. And so I think when people want to post photos either of themselves or other things, they're seeking out things that will reinforce that brand. And and I think it's different from identity in that it's a thing that's being consciously projected and you're looking to sell it, which is, you know, somewhat true of identity, but I think it's a little bit different. You know, you're shopping for likes or you're shopping for dates or whatever you're trying to do. There's a projection and then a hope and a return that's hoped for. And so I think that's how photo manipulation plays into all of that. And I don't, I think that there's the danger of female, for this app in particular, females trying to attain an impossible and unnatural kind of beauty, and that tying into kind of social ills. But I also think that the whole thing of it, this kind of like identity projection, is not entirely sinister, you know, because it's in some ways a form of, or in a lot of ways, it's a form of expression, of self-expression. And I think there's some kind of dubious things about it, but not entirely sinister. What do you guys think about that?
I think it's when you say sinister, no, I don't think it's entirely sinister. But so there's the aspect of it that's pretty clear, right? That women should obtain these crazy standards. That's been happening forever, and well, it doesn't seem to ever stop. But the other part of it is psychological. So it's a means of not being vulnerable, and it's a means of not showing the true self, the real you, because that's a very scary thing to do, and it puts you in a very vulnerable position if you're doing that on a large social scale, like through a dating app or something like that, where you are subjecting yourself to rejection, consistent, possibly consistent rejection by tons of people.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I can totally understand why someone would be afraid to be raw and open about exactly who they are in those formats, because you're allowing yourself to be very vulnerable.
Yeah. I
And that's
would,
the other.
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's good. I'm done.
I would say that people don't necessarily know creating a brand, degrees of consciousness around it. The idea of being truthful about who they're projecting is sort of tricky. Whenever I hear people make statements about who they are, or how they think, or what they're about, it often doesn't jive with my perceptions. Do you know what I mean? So if you're being truthful about who you are, that's operating under the assumption that you have a real awareness of who you are and what you look like. And I think we see ourselves through all kinds of filters anyway, so that's.
I don't know. If you don't know who you are, nobody else knows who you are. So I don't totally agree. Yeah, I mean, you have a bias about certain parts of yourself, I'm sure, but in general, you know what you look like. You see yourself in the mirror every day. You know what you know that you're not going kayaking every day, right? But you put kayaking pictures
I
of
just
yourself.
came back from kayaking, Veronica. I don't kayak every day.
You know what I mean? Like, people curate what they show to the world, and they know that they're doing that. I know that I feel like they know that they're doing that, because our lives are so mundane. We go to work, we come home, we eat dinner, and we go to bed. Maybe we watch The Great British Bake Off, which is a wonderful show, by the way. It's pretty boring.
It is hard to know, though, which part of your identity, because there's so many layers to each of our identities. Like, I've made so many OkCupid profiles, and I get into writing them. And it's like you start, after you get so many weird responses from people or non-responses, you start writing a profile that's like a part of you, part of the vulnerability, a tiny bit of it, but also like trying to project out the identity that will pull in the person that you want to attract, as opposed to just sort of like casting out into the stream where you're at like the world's biggest, douchiest bar where everybody comes to talk to you, is in your space.
Yeah. And it's definitely an experiment in what attracts who on those things. Like, on my OkCupid profile, I have a picture of me in a Star Trek costume from Halloween. And by the part where I'm saying, here's something about me, is I like costumes and theme parties and stuff. And I think that's something I think is fun. And then what that tells the internet is, hey, sci-fi geeky chick seeking other sci-fi geeky person, and dudes are like, oh, let me tell you about Battlestar Galactica. And I'm like, well, I already know about Battlestar Galactica, but it's just, there are certain messages that I'll get that I can tell are specifically from that photo. And when I put it on, it was like an immediate shift in population response. And there was one time recently where I was looking at a profile and I was like, oh, he likes Agnes Varda. That's cool. Like most people don't know about, avant-garde French film. I'm like, okay, I'll message you. And so sometimes I notice that that there are little hooks for me, and it might not be totally about a whole picture. But then there's also like a balance between the part where people are just being honest and expressing themselves, and then a thing where I want someone to be like sort of cheeky and self-aware too, but then not so cheeky and self-aware that da da da. But anyway, like the whole thing becomes a thing about looking for people who are good at doing online profiles. So much about connecting with human beings. A friend of mine started reading me a profile that she loved when we were out to dinner last week. And this guy's profile was hilarious. We were cracking up, and none of it really had to do with who he is. It's just that it was really smart and it was funny, and it's sort of making fun of a lot of online dating profile things. I was just trying to get her to send me a screenshot because it's hilarious and really smart. But
doesn't that mean that he's capable of being hilarious and really smart?
Right. Yeah. So it's more, and like I would never message anyone who has shitty photos posted, because I'm like, well, if you think that's a good photo, then like you have pathetic awareness, and I'm not interested. So, and then there's some other stuff where I'm like, well, if it's like a selfie just showing your abs, then fuck off entirely.
Yeah.
And like if there's more than one marathon picture, this person's like too good of
and,
for me.
And what I'm interested in there.
Oh no, Lauren.
We lost your last comment, Lauren.
What?
We didn't hear your last comment. You froze a little bit on that your last sentence.
Yeah, none of those things are really expressions. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good.
Even the people who are being super genuine, it's really not interacting with them. It's interacting with how they interact with this app. And can you hear?
Yeah.
So that's my point about that, is that it being a real connection between people is not a thing.
Well, I'm assuming the hope is that it could, like the artificial format could lead to a real interaction that could be sustainable. But before you get there, there's a certain amount of marketing, either if it's from the visuals you provide or the content you provide. It's like a dance between those two things, and kind of figuring out like how to be seen in a certain way, I guess. And sometimes what you want to be seen as is truer to yourself, than other times. And whether or not someone is actually seeing that thing you're hoping to put forward is questionable, right? So I was going to segue into the other question is the practice of altering and presenting one's image dishonest, and is that wrong? So, crafting an image, whether you're using an app or you're, you're kind of like curating the very best image of yourself, which is maybe not as true to what you generally look like. Is that dishonest, or is it? I don't know. What do you guys think? I was thinking about this today because I remember a long time ago I was talking about like how I never really got never been one to get approached very often by guys, which is fine. I'm okay. I survived. But I think someone told me like, well, maybe if you like wore makeup, like you kind of look like a librarian. Like if you wore makeup, maybe people would know you're like looking you're like looking for action or something.
Who told you
and
that?
I was thinking,
I hate
That's like a really I was like, that would, and I was thinking about this question because I was like, that would be really dishonest because I never wear makeup ever. I haven't worn makeup since, I mean, the only few times I've worn makeup since I was 16 was for Halloween costumes, and that's it. Like, I just have never liked it. I don't like it on my face. I, I think it's great. I just, it's never worked out for me, and that's fine. But I was thinking that would be really dishonest if I was like, oh, if someone's like, I'm really attracted to like a painted face. It's like, well, that's too bad. That was just that one time, and I will never do it again. So,
Gotcha.
anyways, that's my so
I feel like I've done that with
so
some
what
of
do you
my
think?
writing because I always felt like you either like what I look like or don't. I never felt comfortable altering that. It was always like that. But with my writing and the way I found that like I would always try to write myself as like totally like witty and invulnerable and like, like sassy and I've got, control of it as opposed to like actually I'm on an online dating app. I'm incredibly vulnerable and I'm kind of lonely. I'm like uncertain about myself and like scared about men being rapists and like this whole thing makes me really uncomfortable, but you can't like make a profile out of that. Like when people are accidentally a little too honest in their profiles, like it's kind of unattractive because instead of being like, oh yeah, they're, even if it's honest about something I don't really vibe with, I'm not like, oh, that's so sweet that they're honest, but it's like, like, wait, put your best foot forward, guy. Like, so I do the same thing.
Yeah.
It is.
Well, I think mostly because the people who do that are kind of mentally unstable sometimes.
Who are too honest, like sharing things they probably should wait.
Because I've gone on dates, I've read that profile and said, that's honest, Yeah, we are here because we're lonely and because this is, I guess, the thing to do now, And then you meet them and they're fucking crazy. You're like, oh, shit. I guess there has to be some artifice at the beginning. So that, like, if you are crazy, you have to pretend like you're not for at least a week.
Right.
If you can't pretend like you're not crazy for like one day, then you're really crazy. Super.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, I think Lauren might be frozen because I'm seeing her image and she's been in the same position for a really long time. So hopefully we'll get her back. But so I mean, I guess the question is like I was just kind of, I don't know if I want to be. So is it wrong to alter your image? Like wrong? I mean, is there? It's hard to say because I mean, it's just so common practice and like it's been top down from like if we look at images that were presented in a public venue before social media was a thing, those images were all altered and now we have the power to alter our own images, right? So it's like, we've been told that that's okay and expected, but I don't know. I think I have a not as big a problem with it on that micro scale because it's really just affecting like you and how your practice and your life. But when you think about it, it is carrying out something that has, I think, been damaging because even though like we can all sit here and be aware of like these are the expectations of female beauty as told to me by the like this wider format, and I know that this is all like these presentations are false. I know that Photoshop is a thing. I know that bodies are changed with these things all the time and that you can't trust the things you're seeing in more like magazines and like advertisements and all that stuff. But there's knowing it and then still being surrounded by a certain kind of body, and as you're saying, Veronica, like cellulite, like I'm like a like now late 30-year-old, and that is a reality that it's like it's here, you've arrived, aging has arrived, and it's like, and I have been so used to seeing a certain kind of thing that I'm like, oh, is this just me like not trying hard enough with my own body? It's like, no, I like walk every day. I'm an active person, and this is just your reality now, and that's okay. That is okay. You have been surrounded by a certain thing that isn't like accurate portrayal of what, like what an older woman is, but there's knowing it and there's feeling that, truth. And I feel like on that wider scale, it is damaging, and maybe it is wrong. I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think about that? I've been talking too much. I'm the moderator. Stop talking, moderator.
Well, I think that you're right. Like to some degree, we're just people who use these apps and present these images out in the world are just continuing that trend. And because representation matters, and we know that, maybe, if you're gonna, because there's this whole other thing about body positive Instagram accounts where young girls are taking pictures of themselves in their underwear, or what, scantily clad or whatever, and posting it on Instagram as a means of showing how positive about their bodies they are. That's a huge thing, apparently. I just learned about that from one of my students who did a zine about her Instagram account, and I was like, "You're naked." I was like, "Oh no, what's that?" But I try to be open-minded about it because I can see that. But anyway, what was my point? So if you're gonna do that, then you better show your cellulite too. In other words, because if it's about you're being positive about your body, then you should, and you showing your body is the thing that's making you positive about it somehow. Then you need to actually show what it really looks like. Otherwise, it's just more of the same shit all over the place. It's just that the regular people are perpetuating it, and the media is perpetuating it. And I don't think it should be both. I think we should be helping each other out a little bit, and like if you want to like turn yourself into a cartoon, because that's. Oh, we have a question.
We have a question.
It
went away.
It said, which was more dishonest? Hold on, I get it. Which was more dishonest, changing your physical appearance or presenting yourself as a Christian? Well, luckily, I didn't have to answer any questions about being a Christian, but I think I remember enough from CCD class to get by. I think I could do it. My physical appearance was, and actually the most dishonest thing was me saying that I'm 18 and from Orlando. There could be nothing further from the truth. That person, that character was a total opposite of me in every possible way, which was kind of fun. So am I the asshole? Because I made these images, right? I put them out into the internet, and then I baited people. I didn't like reach out and say, "Hey, message me so I can draw you." But that's something that I grappled with throughout the project. I'm like, oh, is this just like am I just using these people? Am I exploiting these men?
Are you doing this at the expense of the people?
What's that?
I mean, I think that's connected. Is this working?
You're cutting out a little bit, Lauren. No. I mean, that is a good question, moving from the like dishonesty of what you're portraying visually. But Veronica, you opened it up to the group, like who you were, and someone determined that you were Christian, right? And that was one of the things that someone else determined for you, correct?
Yeah, I didn't want to decide who these people
Yeah.
are.
So, I mean, that to me, that practice is you're showing, you know, part of the investigation is like judgment based on looks rather than content, I'm assuming. So you're showing a look and we determine like your identity based on what we see in your picture. And then you're putting that out. So I mean, whether or not you were using the guys on OkCupid or whatever platform it was on. I mean, maybe a little. I mean, they were unwilling participants, I guess. But I mean, part of the project is based on investigating how these things work. And I mean, it's not like you catfish them or anything. You didn't like continue to talk to them and plan a date or get them to send you money or anything. So, I
I didn't
mean, it
fall in
didn't
love.
go very far. But I did want to ask, like, so the next step was to take their image, and so in a way, like, as the people who participated in the project and determining the identity of your person based on what you look like is their interpretation of you. And so then you creating a drawing of the men who interacted with your profile is kind of your interpretation of them, sort of as an artist, visual interpretation. You're drawing their picture, you're presenting it a certain way. I did want to ask, like, so like, what why did you decide to make it then something that could be purchased, like that sort of representation, like they could then be bought? Like, that was something I wanted to ask you about.
Yeah, it's kind of like so I guess originally when I thought of that idea of they were greeting cards. So the money that you pay just pays for printing the card. I don't get anything out of it. I think it's like $3 or something. And so the first thing was, I thought, that'd be funny if I'm gonna. I was like, oh, how funny it would be to have greeting cards that were the opening chats from men on OkCupid. I just thought it would be funny, a funny like section of the project. And the other part, the serious artist part, was saying it's a commentary on how people interact with each other now. First of all, no one sends greeting cards anymore. People are a greeting card. So to get really meta on you, so it's a digital, it's a photograph that gets altered in my phone through an app, and then drawn, and then turned into a watercolor, and then altered in Photoshop and repainted in Photoshop. And then, so there's those things just of my face. Then the interactions are based on these things that I just did to myself. The interactions are false, like 2 times as false as they normally would be, because the image is false and the identity is completely false and outsourced. And then the comments from the person are based on all this false. So it's false, 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 false. And then it's a drawing of a digital image that gets scanned and then digitized again and then purchased and then printed and then mailed. So as many filters between what is actually real and what you end up getting as possible. Did that make any sense?
Thousands of steps to get you a physical object that seems like it'd be a simple thing, but it's really like filtered through all these steps of falsehoods.
Yes, thank you. I was afraid I made it's as many filters and re-imaging and re-filtering and reworking of the original thing, whether it's that one guy in Ireland or whatever. He's a real person somewhere out there in the world, but he's been filtered
Maybe.
and reworked and changed and drawn and scanned and printed and mailed so many times. By that point, it's just not even he's not him. Did that answer the question?
Yeah.
I'm
Yes.
having some problems with my connection here.
Yes.
Are you close to your modem?
Yeah, pretty close.
No.
Just like it's skipping out a little bit.
Okay.
Okay.
I think that I might sign out because I feel like I'm not able to engage.
Okay.
Missing parts of the conversation.
Yeah.
Bye, Laura.
All right. Okay.
But I do follow what you just said, Veronica, and I think it's cool.
Okay, thanks, buddy.
Well, thank you. Sorry we can't keep you, but it makes sense.
Okay, thank you
All right. Bye,
guys.
Lauren. Thank
Good
you.
night.
Okay. So I am going to go to one more question on our list. Can true intimacy be experienced strictly through digital communication and mediation?
What do you think, Heather?
Well, I think the idea of like even true intimacy is pretty subjective. I mean, there's probably some kind of a central definition that a lot of people could agree to, but the experience of that intimacy is really different for people. Even like I feel like I really desire that deep intimacy, and what that means for me is a lot of things that I think that a lot of people would find really undesirable. I don't think a lot of people are looking for true intimacy. So is it possible? I've never experienced it. I don't think that it comes from that, but I mean, other people, you read stories about that. I don't know what their definition of people that say that they found intimacy and love strictly on an online medium through messaging and pictures and stuff like that over a period of time. There's certainly people that have gotten married or even just claim to have fallen in love that way, but I don't know if we're operating on the same definition of intimacy.
Matter at that point, though, is the question.
What's that?
I wonder if it matters anymore at that point. Like if they say that if they've gotten there, then they've gotten there, I think, right? Like
They feel it.
You're in love.
I guess.
I guess you're in love. I guess.
I mean, would you guys say that because there have been so many like horror stories of like being catfished, that there's so much distrust that even if you were to like open yourself up and you think you're having a real connection, if you're really just, as you're saying, like speaking via digital communication, you haven't like had a meeting in person yet or anything like that, and you're really just still like communicating via these social media platforms, because there are so many stories of, you know, that like the rug being pulled out from under someone, that in a way almost would prevent the possibility of that working out, because there's a fear that, you know, that whoever you're talking to isn't really a real person, or they could be like just playing a trick on you. Do you think that that's like, that would be a prevention, or do you think people are still open to this tool working? I don't know.
I don't know. That's a good question.
I think it goes into like how honest people are in the relationships they seek anyway. I think a lot of people are really comfortable operating on a certain level of like superficiality, in the sense of like, this is it, this is my identity, this is my brand, you know, you recognize it. And we interact in that way. I don't know. I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
I mean, the more like I think about it, I was thinking about like the like if you're, obviously like meeting someone at like a bar or a party or something like that, you are still like maybe presenting a certain self or being perceived as a certain, like the fun person in that moment. It's not like all of the things you are. Right. It's like maybe, especially if you're getting caught at the right time, you're like on that night, it makes it seem like, oh, you're this person. It's like, no, it was just like a really good night for me. This is like my usual level. It's like, this is me here. I'm usually about here. But it's like that happens with in-person interactions as well. Like you go out, maybe you're going to wear like the outfit that you think is like makes you feel really good about yourself, but is maybe like not what you wear on a day-to-day basis. But in some ways, it's like social media just gives you like more control because it's not in like real-time interaction, so you have more capability of kind of curating what happens. Does that make sense? But it's not necessarily unique to these online sort of venues. It's still a practice that occurs, it went before these things existed to some degree. Would you guys agree with that?
One of the things I mean, like the majority of marriages end in divorce. I feel like that's like a pretty clear sign that people get into those relationships in real life all the time and they don't know each other.
Yeah. Well, so we've all three of us have had customer service jobs at some point in our lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know Jesse and I have talked about the idea of counter, this space that's this thing that separates you and the person that is on the other side of the counter being the best thing, because that allows you to engage with them and you're kind of safe back there. Like they can't freak out and lunge at you, right? And that's kind of like how I see that's kind of like how I see interactions through social media a little bit. It's like, it's the counter. For me, that's the level of separation because I do know these people that I speak to. I'm not like engaging with all that many strangers, if any, through social media. And when I say intimacy, I don't necessarily mean romantic intimacy. It could be friendships or any kind of real connection with another human person, specifically that you don't know in real life. But that filter of social media is the counter between you and the person. Is that a good metaphor?
Yeah. No. Also, I found that the counter made it where it's like I'm allowed to be talking to you. Like there are no like I have to talk to you. That is my job. So there's no interpretation of like me trying to like get something. It's like I am required to speak to you, and that kind of takes any question of like what this is out. And I think that's the thing for me that worked really well, where it's like there's no like designs here. I have to talk to you, and that makes it like this is the situation, and that's okay. It's like kind of takes any like feeling of weirdness of like is my like advances going to be taken a certain way? It's like no, because this is what I have to do, and that's fine.
How may I help you today?
How may I help you?
You weren't surprised with that.
Yeah. That's too bad.
If you add a double burger to that, it's only $1. Would you like that?
You want to see him supersize it. So your last question, Veronica, is are you or your identity, in parentheses, what you look like online?
I kind of already made my mind up on that. That's why I did the whole project. But
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends, right? I mean, on the how you use your online media, right?
I don't know.
Or I mean, it'll be maybe closer. It could be closer to an accurate depiction of just like what you look like, depending on who you are and how you use your stuff, I guess. You know, like if you're a person who's like, my hair looks right today, I got the right blouse, I'm gonna take a selfie and put it online because this is like the stars are aligned and everything is right. Or if someone puts a random picture of you out from like some time you hung out and you're like, okay, I guess that's there. which is my that's my online presence. Like, oh, you posted a picture of me, that's cool. All right, I look good, I look not good. Okay, either way, you posted it. So, um, but I mean, I guess that's solely like what you going back to like what you look like, and I guess another question is what you look like your identity. I mean, it's part of it, I guess, but it's that line
Well,
between I don't know
when you're
what.
just a fucking head on the internet, it is.
Yeah,
I guess that's the. I know that it's not what you look like is not who you are, and I know that, and we all know that. But the subtext is in this world when you're just like a little box in a
yeah.
white space, and it's just a name and a number, and then your face.
It's
Or
like you're your own avatar.
What was that?
What?
It's like your own avatar.
Oh, an
Yeah.
avatar. So
Your own,
but it's
but
still
you're
you. Yeah.
Yeah. So no, it's not you. That's not who you are. But I think other people who don't know you, who are looking to engage with you or someone like you, the sheer fact that you are part of an algorithm that determines whether or not people engage with you says a whole hell of a lot about how in depth these communications can be, which is
Yeah.
not very nice at all.
I mean, it's not to say that out in the real world where I think, there are times when we're being boiled down to what we look like, most likely, and there's not, as much space of, would like to believe that our personalities coming through and that's like what's taking the lead, but like what you look like is part of it. And again, like in the digital space, I think it just because it is a very visual space. I mean, there's words, but you're still like looking at, I don't know, like it is a very visual, like moving also with Instagram, it's moving towards being more like picture heavy and centered. So
Yeah.
it's relying solely on this kind of like what you look like or what, visuals. It's visual heavy. So it's kind of
It's not just what you look like, it's how the picture is taken, what the background is like, it's like a lot of those decisions come into play and people don't even realize it. But that only exists like that on the internet because it's a reflection of what it has been happening forever out here in the real world too. It's not like it doesn't, like you said, it's a thing that happens.
so.
But
I know we're getting like we started a little late, so I do want to ask one more question of like I've not used online dating stuff at all just because I have not. But I did want to ask if whether you guys found just with personal use of these various apps whether like you found market changes depending on like your the profile you put. Like I know Heather, you're saying that you had different types of profiles, and Lauren was saying like when the image she chose to put up, she got different types of responses. And I am thinking in part because I read an article before we came on that was a opinion piece in the New York Times from someone who has cerebral palsy, and she like she was kind of playing around with OkCupid and put one profile up where she like kind of presented herself in her words as normal, like didn't mention her disability and just kind of like, and the kinds of messages she got were very different than for profiles where she put up and included information about her disability. So I wondered if you guys had experienced any shifts like in the types of things you put forward, like whether it be likes or different kinds of pictures you put up, or if that was even a thing that you experienced. I don't know.
So like, so you're saying depending on,
Like,
no matter what the platform.
like if you found with different types of images or different types of content, you found that different types of people were like, and that might be algorithm related. I don't know.
I can't remember what my profile picture was on OkCupid. I think it was something pretty normal looking for me. I think it was a picture someone took of me at my MFA thesis. And I had like really greasy hair, and it was a far away picture. So it wasn't like a selfie where my face was even,
where you're
my face
like
this big in a big picture, but I just liked the picture because I had my favorite bright green scarf on.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought so I picked that on purpose for two reasons. One, I really just liked the picture and it was of a happy time. And then two, because I thought it would deter creepy dudes.
Yeah.
Like I didn't want to have a picture that was like, I'm here to meet men. To be like that. Because yeah, it's understood. I'm here. Here's the
like we all know what the
So, but that didn't work. That didn't work. I don't know what the answer is to getting.
No, it was, the question was just your experience of, like, personal experience of these apps in terms of both images and content provided.
Yeah. I don't know.
What about you?
Go ahead.
Oh, when I was talking before about like all the different layers of personality, like I've got a lot of tattoos. Like my arms are completely covered with tattoos, but then I've also, I'm into these ideas, or I'm an activist, or I've got like these different things in life that are important to me that they create a very strange Venn diagram of like what's in the middle of them. And I've like the differences in the profiles, I've had to been like, okay, who am I going to attract? And the biggest thing I struggled with in pictures was how much I show my tattoos. Because on one hand, if I wanted to try and go on a date with a guy who is a bit more spiritual, those guys are typically like pretty straight-laced, I've noticed. Like they've, especially when I was going to Catholic church all the time and stuff, like those guys would not want to see somebody with tattoos. And I've gotten that vibe. Like I wouldn't get, if I had tattoos, I was afraid it would scare them off. So but I felt like, oh, but I have to be honest, because I also have gone on a date with a guy that was super, super square and very like, very, very Catholic, nice, but like insisted on this date. And it became very weird because I sort of we had a nice conversation, but then I was like this weird unicorn. I was like the first woman with tattoos he'd ever sat with and had a conversation with. But then if I have like my tattoo out, I get so many sexual messages, especially from guys without any tattoos. Or I get like, it's not like I feel so classist about this, but like I've worked so hard to like, get my degree and all that kind of stuff that like, I feel like I can't date somebody who's unemployed right now because I have barely enough money for me, but I'll attract a lot of like those kind of people when I have tattoos because it projects a certain image, which is why I wear blazers when I teach now, because I'm like very concerned with, like, what does that say, even though I feel like they're such a big part of who I am, but I can't help how other people perceive them. I can't control that.
Yeah, that's a physical manifestation of what we all deal with anyway, parts of our personality. I'm that. Yeah. We have to.
It's also like a weird dated, sorry, I was gonna say like a dated, because it's like, I think more and more tattoos have become like, I like less, like, I feel like there's this like 1985 stereotype of what someone with a lot of tattoos is. But now, like, I remember I moved to Seattle in 2004 and everyone had tattoo. Like, everyone had a tattoo. It was anyone anywhere had like sleeves of tattoos, and I was like, wow, it's really cool. And it's like not like this thing where it's like you're I don't know. And I think tattoos are beautiful, and I have a lot of appreciation for tattoo artists because it's like there's so many layers of like high stakes. Like you're permanently putting something on someone's skins. You got to get it right the first time. Like, and what people can do with it, it's amazing. But I feel like we are getting to, I thought we were getting to a point with tattoos where it's like less this like weird like subcategory. I feel like more and more people have them that are from all over, but that sounds very much like it's still rooted in this idea of like what someone with a lot of tattoos are. That's very much not the case in 2017. I don't know.
Well, there's also the weird thing about who's on OkCupid or Tinder or whatever, for how long, what time, you know what I mean? Like, so many people that are on there are on for like a couple days, then jump off and disappear. Like, like you really, somebody is telling me, you really have to stay on it for a long time. So in order to see like the full range of different people that are on it, you have to really invest that. Otherwise, you'll just see a quick snapshot of whoever happens to want to make a profile, because they come and go so quickly.
Yeah, I was gone after like 2 months. Yeah, like, bye. This sucks.
Well, I mean, if you have enough like weird messages that someone you're just like, this isn't working, done, and then you're like, well, maybe I'll try it out again, and then it's like done.
Yeah, but it's like dating is expensive, and I went on OkCupid because I had never really dated before. I'd always been in one long-term relationship right after the other. And so I made a pact with myself. I was like, okay, we're going to try this dating thing out to see how it goes. And I was like, okay, I got it. I understand what this is. Well, I'm good. Got it. Figured it out. I'm done now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want it anymore.
So it is now 8:17. I realize I'm talking to two working ladies. Does anyone have any like final thoughts or points either about the project or some of the topics we spoke about? Are we good? Did we do it?
Everyone take pictures, close-up pictures of
Did we solve it?
And post them on all the social media sites. And
like real pic.
Because you know men have cellulite, and they can project too. Post your cellulite, men, but just have the ambiguous cellulite pictures.
We don't know what body part it is. It's just like a cellulite. We don't know where it's coming from.
But yeah, well, you can kind of tell by. Never mind. Yeah. So never mind. That was really the goal. I just wanted everyone to share their cellulite pictures with the world. So
take back the web.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we good? Did we do it? Did we figure it out?
We figured out the internet.
That's how we always end we solved the problem, right? Yeah, I think that we covered we talked about all the questions on my list. Yeah, I feel pretty good. I don't want to keep you guys because I know it's a school night for everybody. / work night or whatever it is. But well, thank you both. Thank you, Veronica, for being our artist in residence. And I should say, as your bio said, Veronica is a co-founder of Manifesto-ish, but we're happy to have her as our artist in residence. Check out her project on the Manifesto-ish website, where you are hopefully watching this video right now. And thank you, Heather, so much for being our guest panelist and talking about because I was like, this is a hard thing to ask people to participate in, because I think some people have I don't know, it is like offering up a personal information about yourself. So thank you for sharing your experience and speaking with us on both about the project and also online dating in general, social apps and stuff.
I don't think I would have done it if I was still on one of the apps.
You're like, no.
Now it's an abstraction. It's not reality for me.
So it's like a thing, like it's in the distant past. um, but thank you for joining us. And yeah, so have a good night, everybody. I think I'm not quite sure how to shut this off.